You know, when you think of a criminal case, you probably picture a dramatic courtroom trial, but that's just a tiny piece of it. The real story is often found in a long, complicated trail of paperwork. Today, we're going to follow that trail for one specific case, from the very first violent act to the final sentence, to see what these official documents can really tell us about how our justice system actually works.
This is what started it all. It's pulled directly from the initial police complaint, and this single statement set a whole legal process in motion that would end up spanning years. This is the raw, unfiltered event right at the heart of the case.
So every court case has to start somewhere. For this one, it all began with a 911 call on December 3, 2021. The report, a domestic assault in progress. And right there, that's the moment a private fight becomes a very public legal matter.
And here's where it becomes official. This document right here is the formal filing. You see, at this point, it's no longer a conflict between two people. It is now the state of Minnesota versus the defendant, Brandon Gilbert Bacchus. The government itself has stepped in, acting on behalf of the public and, of course, the victim.
Now, the specific charge is absolutely crucial. This isn't some minor offense. Assault in the third degree is a felony, which means the state believed it could prove substantial bodily harm. That classification is a huge deal, and it raises the stakes dramatically. We're talking about the potential for serious prison time.
And this is why it's a felony. These are the injuries that were documented right in the complaint. The second-degree burns to his face, his neck, his chest, even a thermal burn to his eye. This list is exactly what prosecutors point to when they argue substantial bodily harm. It's the factual foundation for the state's entire case.
Okay, so the crime has happened and the charges are filed. Now the legal machinery really kicks into gear. Let's shift to the official response and see how the system handles an accusation this serious.
$40,000. Once a warrant was issued for his arrest, the court set his bail at $40,000. That's the amount of money he, or more likely a bail bond company, would need to put up to get him out of jail while the case moved forward.
This timeline gives you a real feel for the early pace of the case. And notice the gaps, right? It took almost a whole month just for the warrant to be issued, and then another month for the bail to actually get posted. Things definitely sped up later on, but it just goes to show you, the wheels of justice can turn pretty slowly at the start.
But here's the thing, his freedom on that bond didn't last long. His release was conditional, and it was revoked because he failed to, and this is a quote, obey all laws. That's a standard condition for bail. Violating it sent him right back to jail, and it really didn't help his legal position going forward.
You know, most of us probably imagine criminal cases ending in these big, dramatic jury trials we see on TV. But the reality? Over 90% of cases in the U.S. actually end with a guilty plea. And this case was no different. The defendant made the choice to admit guilt instead of fighting the charges in court.
And this is the actual paperwork. I mean, look at that. That's the defendant's own handwriting on the official court form. This makes it so real. It's not some abstract legal concept. It's a personal, signed document where he is formally giving up his constitutional right to a trial.
Now, in that petition, he makes some incredibly important admissions. He confirms his age and education, sure, but check out those last 2 points. He explicitly states that he is not claiming he was too intoxicated to be responsible for his actions, and he is not claiming self-defense. By checking those boxes, he's essentially waiving his 2 main potential defenses.
So once that guilty plea is accepted by the court, there's really only one thing left to do, and that's sentencing. This is the moment where the judge lays down the official punishment for the crime.
The court's sentence came in 3 parts. First, the big one, 26 months behind bars. But the consequences go way beyond prison. He also has to follow post-release conditions, like providing a DNA sample and a lifetime ban on owning guns. And on top of all that, there's a financial penalty of over $3,000. Here's an important little detail you might miss: credit for time served. His 26-month sentence didn't start from 0 on the day of sentencing. The 42 days he'd already been locked up waiting for his case to resolve, those were subtracted from his total prison term.
The prison sentence is pretty straightforward, right? But the financial part? Oh, that's where things can get messy. Let's take a look at the process of trying to make the victim financially whole again, which in legal terms is called restitution.
So check this out. We're looking at 2 different court orders, issued more than a year apart. And notice anything? The amounts owed to the victim and the state's Crime Victims Board are totally different. It's a perfect example of how confusing and, well, error-prone the administrative side of the justice system can get.
And this confusion wasn't just some clerical error buried in a file cabinet. An email from a victim services specialist shows that the victim himself actually had to report that he got a check for the wrong amount. Can you imagine? He's the one who had to flag the system's mistake to get it fixed.
So, what finally cleared things up? It was this document right here. This is the official order from the state board, and it breaks down the exact costs they covered for the victim: the ambulance ride, the hospital stay, the medical treatments. This detailed breakdown was the key to figuring out who was actually owed what.
And finally, we have a resolution. This is an email from a claims manager at the state board confirming the discrepancy. After a review, they corrected the amounts, the board got reimbursed for the money it paid out, and the victim got the money to cover his own out-of-pocket expenses. The books were finally balanced.
But the story doesn't quite end with his release from prison. A separate, much later incident gives us a bit of a fuller picture of the defendant's life after his felony conviction. Think of it as a coda to the main story.
This is from a police citation issued in December of 2023, more than a year after his felony sentencing. He was cited for disorderly conduct after neighbors reported him yelling racial slurs. According to the officer's summary here, he admitted to it, apologized on the scene, and was released.
The outcome of this second incident was, as you can imagine, way less severe. He was convicted of a petty misdemeanor, which is actually a non-criminal offense in Minnesota, and was just ordered to pay a fine of $187.
So from a violent felony to a petty misdemeanor, from a 26-month prison sentence to bureaucratic confusion over just $25, this paper trail really shows us the whole system, doesn't it? We see its slow, methodical processes, but we also see its capacity for human error. It leaves us with a big question. What does this meticulous, yet often messy, documentation truly tell us about the nature of justice?